Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a book review on The Ladies of the Secret Circus by Constance Sayers. The Ladies of the Secret Circus by Constance Sayers follows Laura Barnes, whose fiancé disappears on the day of their wedding. Desperately searching for answers leads Laura to the journals of her great-great-grandmother, who was part of a sinister but magical circus in 1920s Paris. Laura's family history and secrets become exposed, revealing a curse that claims payment from the women in Laura's family. With the help of the local chief of police, Laura is determined to figure out what happened to her fiancé and lift her family curse. So, the Ladies of the Secret Circus, how did I feel, you guys? There's part of me that I kind of had some mixed feelings about this book. It's for the most part, I did definitely really enjoy this book. I think there was just a few things about this book that I was a little bit disappointed about. I guess maybe the direction this book took overall, because I think I had something far more grander and elaborate in my head. I guess just to get this quickly out of the way, this book, a lot of people have either fairly or unfairly, I guess kind of how you want to see it, people have been critiquing this book and really heavily comparing it to something like The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. And I have read The Night Circus. I really enjoyed The Night Circus. I absolutely loved it. And I think what was so special about The Night Circus, I really loved how elaborate it was, how magical, how whimsical, and I think in some ways those things were what was missing in this book, even though it is about a circus. But as I was reading this book, I kind of found that whenever it would go to the circus aspects in this book, I kind of felt like the circus ultimately wasn't really the point of this book, if that makes sense. Because I think at the core of this book, it's more about family. You know, it's more about family and relationships, whether those relationships be either through like mother-daughter relationships, the main character and her mother, or relationships between sisters, which is when you're in like the historical fiction aspect of this book, that's where you're getting like the sisterly relationship going on. I found it to be a lot more about relationships, about family, about generations within a family, crisis and struggles within within generations and whatnot, if that makes sense. The circus, to me, kind of really came across almost secondary, weirdly enough, considering that this is called The Ladies of the Secret Circus. The circus sometimes felt almost ignored. I think, like I said, I was really expecting just something much more elaborate and grandiose and really wild and crazy, and it was kind of lacking to me. It's really hard to explain unless you've read this book and you kind of get where I'm going with it, I guess. I just kind of needed a bit more with the circus, because the ultimate direction of this story, it was kind of really going completely somewhere else I wasn't entirely expecting, which obviously I can't really get into it with, because of spoilers. This ain't a spoiler review, obviously. So yeah, if you're kind of heading into this book and you're thinking, ooh, this is going to be the next great best thing after The Night Circus, there's a good possibility you might be a little bit disappointed. Now, that's not to say that you might not still enjoy this book, because I still liked this book for what it was. I think this book came across more as almost like a mystery thriller, kind of crazy enough. more so than like a magical realism story with fantasy elements. You know, this definitely had more mystery thriller elements, which I was very, very shocked and surprised about. So I think you really do need to be highly aware of that as you're going into this book. Because as I've already explained through like the plot synopsis and whatnot, we're following a woman named Laura Barnes. It's the day of her wedding, and we immediately know she can perform magic, because her wedding dress is not to her liking. So she's essentially altering her wedding dress at the last minute, and making some additional flourishes or taking away or adding or whatever. And so we immediately know from the get-go, from page 1 of this book, that Laura has magical abilities. All of the women in her family do, because her mother walks in on her doing this to her dress, and her mother's like, "Oh, Laura, what are you doing? You can't do that. What if the wrong person walks in and sees you doing this?" You know. So we know that from the get-go. So then, wham, you guys, right at the start of this book, the fiance goes missing. Ooh. So I really appreciated what Constance Sayers got up to immediately at the start of this book. You are thrown headfirst right into the action. She doesn't dilly-dally, you know, she doesn't sit and dilly-dally with setting a hell of a lot up. With Laura just altering her dress, I mean, that's kind of enough to give you a little bit of like character, personality and stuff right there, just with Laura altering her dress. So yeah, the fiance, Laura's fiance, he's just disappearing all of a sudden. And as I said, that's where the mystery thriller aspects of this novel come in, because this entire novel is really Laura's search to find answers. What happened to my fiance? Did he get cold feet? Did he have a change of heart? You know, was he kidnapped? Or yes, was it something more sinister, aka magical? So there's a much more of a deeper, darker mystery thriller element to this, and I really kind of feel like the magical parts of it are almost secondary, if that kind of makes sense, you guys. I don't know. Like I said, it's hard to talk about this novel without getting into spoilers, because there are some fantastic twists and turns to this novel, you guys. Oh, wow. Especially the ending. Wow, my mind was blown. I was like, oh, I did not see that ending coming. It was good. So yeah, talking about the characters really, really quickly here. Our main character, Laura Barnes, as I said, she has magical talents and abilities. I really liked Laura as our primary protagonist in this. And like I said, since Constance Sayers does a really great job of just throwing you right into that action, you immediately feel something for Laura, you know, without really knowing her for very long at the start of this book. You immediately feel for her that her fiance, he's either jilted her or he's been kidnapped or something weird, you know. You immediately feel that connection with her. You immediately feel that sympathy with her, and you really connect to her journey, her struggles, and her wanting to find answers and whatnot. So I definitely found her a really compelling protagonist to this story. She never had any moment that she like irritated me or anything. And yeah, her voice, I really felt like her voice was quite vivid in some ways. I think Constance Sayers really kind of gave her a unique sort of voice and how she would speak to people, I guess. And joining Laura in her quest to search for her fiance is the local chief of police named Ben Archer. I loved Ben Archer. He was great. He's just the local chief of police in this really small town where not much crime happens. And so yes, the fiance has gone missing, and it's like, oh Lord, what do I do? Who do I talk to? You know, he's a little bit almost overwhelmed, but he's still very professional, and he still has some idea of what he should be doing, you know, in the order and manner he should be. But yeah, the big problem is there's not very much crime in the town in general. So it's a very bizarre, insane incident with the fiance going missing. And yes, there is definitely some chemistry, some hot, steamy, sexy tension between Ben and Laura. Yeah, guys, I loved it. It was great. They just work so wonderfully with each other. Because also what occurs in this novel, the fiance goes missing, and then it skips ahead 9 months, you guys. It skips ahead 9 months. Ben is still helping Laura seek answers and whatnot. And so in the meantime, they've grown closer as a result in these 9 months. And that's kind of a big part of this novel too. The novel deals very heavily with loss and grief. Because in a situation like this, where you don't know if the person is missing, you don't know if the person is dead. When should you stop grieving? You know, when is it time to move on instead of being dragged down? And, you know, waiting your whole life for someone to show up who may never show up again, you know? So the novel definitely kind of deals heavily with that. Laura kind of being in this awkward position, like, you know, it's almost like Schrodinger's cat, you know, that whole thing, that scientific thing, Schrodinger's cat or whatever. Like, you don't know if the cat in the box, whether the cat is alive or dead. It's like he's both alive and dead, you know. So it's kind of that sort of situation with the fiance. He could be both dead and alive, you know. You don't know. So that's her big dilemma. She feels kind of this guilt, like, I feel guilty for moving on. I'm tired of being lonely, and here's local chief of police, Ben Archer, you know, who I'm connecting with, and he's nice and friendly, and should I feel ashamed and guilty for moving on with this guy, you know? And then, yeah, even Ben is kind of put in that awkward position, too, like, am I taking advantage of her, you know? Am I technically taking advantage of her? Should I give her more time to grieve and move on, you know? So I really liked their chemistry and kind of that awkwardness. The awkwardness worked really wonderfully in this book, and it was really sweet. And your other big character is Laura's great-great-grandmother, Cecile, and you are told her story through journal entries. Over the course of this novel, Laura, she discovers these journals that belonged to Cecile, her great-great-grandmother, and this is where Laura starts to figure out about this magical but sinister circus that her great-grandmother, her great-great-grandmother was part of. So when you're being told Cecile's story, it is through her journal entries, and so you're kind of given a bit of this historical fiction perspective through that as well, you know. I really like the character of Cecile. You can definitely kind of see that semblance there, that relationship, like that the family ties and bonds there, you know, that would connect her to Laura, I suppose. Yes, Cecile has a twin sister named Esme. Her sister is really hateful, bitter. Over the course of the novel, you find out exactly why, which is very intriguing and fascinating. And this is where some of the really bizarre stuff in the novel does kind of happen. And the circus, well, their father, Esme and Cecile's father, he's actually like a higher demon of hell. Yeah, guys. And I wasn't quite sure how I felt about that. It felt a little extreme and a little over the top for me that their father was literally like a demon of hell, and that the circus like was technically like within a hell dimension, because you can't see the circus. You have to get a special ticket to be invited to even see the circus and go inside. So that's where a lot of the stuff, it was just a little too much, a little too bizarre for me, over the top, with the father of Cecile and Esme being a demon. The circus was actually in a hell dimension. It's like I wanted something a little bit more, I don't know, stable. You know, I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm just contradicting myself all over the place. I feel like I'm contradicting myself. I don't know. Like I said, I have just very mixed feelings about just the nature of the circus in general. But yeah, I needed something a little bit more stable with the circus, because the hell dimension thing was a little much for me. So you guys, overall, The Ladies of the Secret Circus, it did what it was supposed to do. Ultimately, it was entertaining, it was fun, it had a really nice pace to it, I liked the characters. Yeah, there's some little disappointments here and there, because I was expecting a little bit more just in regards to the circus, I guess. But it did its job, and it was great. And I kept thinking to myself, I would love to see this turned into like either a movie or a TV series, miniseries, or whatever. And like I mentioned earlier, there's some really fantastic twists and turns to this narrative, and if it was made into something like a movie or television series, I'm very curious how that would be done, because of a particular twist at the end of this, because I feel like because of whatever the twist is, you will be spoiled at the start of like the movie or miniseries or something, you know. If you've read this book, you know what I'm talking about with the twist at the end. But yeah, I enjoyed this book for what it was. I do still recommend it if you do like all things that deal with magical circuses and whatnot. Give this a shot. Yeah, you may end up liking this possibly more than the Night Circus, or you may not like it as much. That's really up to you. So you guys, that is it for my book review on The Ladies of the Secret Circus. In the comments below, have you guys read this book? Do you plan on reading it? Just let me know your thoughts down below. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye, guys.